So, Kyle, what do you believe the Cardinals need to do to improve for 2023?
They have a lot of areas of need. And honestly, that's just putting it mildly. When it comes to the Cardinals this upcoming season, they're going to have to contend with the fact that Kyler is going to be out for at least half of the season while he recovers from his torn ACL. And that's going to have a big impact offensively. So there will be some things that I'll get to on the offensive side, maybe, but I really want to focus on the defense because defensively, they're a subpar team, even though that I think that they have some good players on that side of the football. I'm going to start with their pass rush. Pass rush is going to be a big area of need this offseason simply just because J.J. Watt retired. And even though that they had somebody like J.J. Watt in the fold on that front four, the Cardinals were a team that was essentially middle of the pack. You could even say they were on a lower tier in the grand scheme of things with the amount of sacks they were able to get consistently. They only had 36 sacks this past season. And when you lose somebody like J.J. Watt, that's a big piece. So this offseason, they're definitely going to have to make some sort of moves, whether it's in free agency or in the draft, to be able to bring up some young studs that could potentially be some playmakers on that front four and on that pass rush. Because defensively, their secondary and their linebacking core, they have some good players to roll with. They have Budda Baker. They have Isaiah Simmons. They have Marco Wilson. These are some good players in that back half of the defense that you could build a good defense around. But that front four, it needs to be addressed sooner rather than later because defensively, they're going to be stretched to their limits based on the fact that their offense is going to be limited next year. And then if I had to say the next part, it's got to be their offensive line. You're not going to have Kyler Murray. And with the amount of sacks that they let up this year, even when Kyler was there, it was troubling. They were one of the teams that was in essentially the top 5 with the amount of sacks that they were allowing consistently. I believe that they were one of the teams that was tied for 4th in the NFL with the amount of sacks that they allowed. I believe they allowed 46 sacks this past season. And, Kyler's able to escape from some of those potential sacks. So now that you're going to have somebody like Colt McCoy or Trace McSorley or David Blau as your starting quarterback for the first 2 months of the season, the offensive line is going to be a major key area to focus on because if they're losing that battle on the line of scrimmage consistently, you're not going to be able to pass the ball effectively. James Conner's not going to be able to run the ball effectively. And offensively, they're going to be stagnant. When it comes to the Cardinals, just relatively speaking, they are just a subpar team. Last year did not work out well for them in any way, shape, or form, and it went bad to worse once Kyler got hurt. So the margin of error when it comes to the Cardinals is slim to begin with. And it could even be slimmer based on how the first 2 months of the season go. Because at this point, the quarterback spot is iffy. Their offensive line is iffy. And if they don't play up to their standards, or even a better standard than what they had this past year, it could be a repeat result of what this past season was. So I'll leave it at that. I know he's got some other things to attend to with the Cardinals, so I'll let him have the floor.
So, Kyle already alluded to some big points, right? And I would say just to add a simple third point here, you have to find a way to manage the season. Kyler Murray's going to miss anywhere from 8 to 12 games. There's no estimated timetable, but obviously with him being hurt towards the end of last season, or the back half of the second half of the season last year, usually an ACL recovery is anywhere from 8 to 12 months. Obviously 8 months being like record time, like Adrian Peterson coming back in ridiculous historic pace. But for Kyler Murray, with his mobility, the position he plays, and of course, size, weight, and all that, he's not exactly somebody that's built to take hits like an Adrian Peterson. So I would say that Kyler Murray is going to miss a good chunk of the season, which means that you are going to have to find ways to win without him. You are going to have to find a way to go at least, I would say, 500 to be competitive in the NFC West. You can't afford to lose every single game. And because if you do for that, then Kyler doesn't come back next season. Why risk hurting your franchise quarterback if you guys are 2-6, 2-8? It just doesn't make sense because, again, the season at that point is a wash. If Arizona wants to remain competitive, you have to find a way to win games without him, whether that is you signing a veteran quarterback to just hold on, whether you're developing a quarterback that you currently have on your roster. I don't exactly know what Arizona has planned, especially with new head coach Jonathan Gannon, him being a defensive-minded guy, I don't necessarily have any clue as to what direction they're thinking about going for the future. But Arizona's already got some big glaring pieces to have to improve upon, like Kyle said, defensive, offensive. You, as an overall franchise, you got to win games to remain competitive. Otherwise, this is 100% going to be another wasted season.